Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it is a culmination. All of the things that you've done do culminate on your own.
Okay, thank you so much.
I took exams out of English.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I am not going to speak for long. I just want to say welcome. We're so excited to have the student showcase today and to celebrate all the amazing learning, action, passion, art, creativity that is going on in our schools across Canada. I want to welcome to their stage our amazing AP students and hand the microphone over to them.
Hello everyone, I'm Aiden Pusey, and this is Sarah Smith, and welcome to the AP Seminar presentations.
Today, we will explore some of the great passions of these amazing seminar students. That being said, please clap after the presentations, not during, and enjoy.
Thank you.
First up, we have Lance from
Brampton Centennial Secondary School.
Next up, we have Somway and Suchi. Next up we have Willow.
From St. Malachy's High School.
Hello everyone, my name is Willow Gath. I'm from New Brunswick at St. Malachy's Memorial High School. So, forestry is a huge industry in New Brunswick, generating over $1.5 billion per year. But out of the 24,000 jobs dedicated to forestry in New Brunswick, most of them are focusing on exploiting our forests rather than protecting them. A big example of this exploitation and destruction is through glyphosate usage in New Brunswick. Now, what glyphosate is it's a selective herbicide that's sprayed after clear cuts to manage broadleaf weeds. As you can tell, it is trending upwards in usage globally, and it's actually the most widely used chemical herbicide in the world right now. And New Brunswick itself is the second top user of glyphosate in Canada. This is really bad. Glyphosate is detrimental to the environment and to human health. This is made possible due to the fact that it can persist over 2 years in our environment, giving it plenty of time to circulate through our environmental systems and into our biological systems. For For detrimental impacts that it has on the environment, it can affect our grazing species like moose and deer, but it can also affect our aquatic species through aquatic pollution. Specifically, this is seen as it is extremely detrimental to our guppy populations. It is also really bad for human health. It has been shown to cause neurological diseases and chronic diseases such as cancer, and it is a big reason for miscarriages. It is also extremely present in ourselves, with mean urinary concentrations in people exceeding 7 nanograms. The solution to this is iron-based herbicides. Iron-based herbicides can be used instead of glyphosate, as they are a more sustainable and safer option. Iron-based herbicides work using a chelating agent, which makes it easier for plant uptake. Once it is in the system, it overloads the plant with iron, leading to plant necrosis and eventually death within 24 hours. Iron-based herbicides have been implemented already in a lot of commercial and residential usages, but they haven't been used in industrial usages just yet. This is mostly because of the economic challenges faced when compared to glyphosate, especially. Glyphosate is super cheap. Recently, in my AP Drag class, we went on a trip to Elmhurst Lodge, which is this little cottage owned by this guy named Gig Kiersid in the Kingston Peninsula, which is just kind of like on a river in my community. Gig took us on a snowshoeing walk through his Wabanaki Acadian forest that he works really hard to preserve. This was super relevant to me after I've just done a project on forestry. So me and my group, we went to talk to Gig Kiersid about what his opinions are for the best weed management practices. His answer shocked me. He said none. Which kind of brought me to my next slide. He was talking about ecoforestry. That's the way that Gig manages his forest, and is the new silviculture management practice that I'm going to present to you now. Ecoforestry is a way of managing forests trying to mimic their natural ways that they already work. So like, if there's a really old tree, then they go in and they use selective harvesting practices to take that tree instead of one of their younger ones. It also tries to promote the right age stand balance, meaning a lot larger percentage of their forest is old, because that's how forests actually work. And it is proven to be extremely beneficial to biodiversity in our forests, and also just the general ecological health of our forests. And it is completely economically viable. There are two main lessons that I've learned from this whole story. The first being that sometimes, instead of looking to replace the solutions that we already have with more efficient and more sustainable things, we should take a step back and try to work with nature. I think the whole premise of iron-based herbicides versus ecoforestry is that iron-based herbicides are a great alternative for glyphosate, which is an already extremely destructive solution, whereas ecoforestry works with nature instead of against it. And I think that this is a very valuable insight that can be implemented into other aspects of our attempting to green our living. And the second lesson that I've learned is that environmental learning and outdoor learning is extremely valuable. One thing that I kind of say is that in order to protect the land, we need to love the land. In order to love the land, we need to be in the land. And I think this is extremely valuable for schools to take their kids out, because there are some students that I know, and there's a student that was on this trip that had never seen the ocean. Hello? Hi guys. Until we took them to the ocean in our class in AP Nature Ed. And so there are students out there who have never seen a forest. And so when you're talking about forestry and all that stuff, there's no relevancy. And so I just really think that one of the lessons that I've taken from being in AP Nature Ed, and especially being on this trip, is that outdoor education is so valuable, guys. Yeah.
Next up is Somoy and Sushi.
From Fletcher's Meadow Secondary School.
Hello, I'm Section Mystery, and this is Somay Jolly, and we're going to be talking about the value of IUP Afro-Canadian history. We're going to start with course learning. Okay, learning about this course means understanding history from a Black perspective. A major reason why I joined this course was because I personally felt this course was important to join. It was because of the perspective it gave on history as it focused on a Black perspective, which has been generally shunned and not mentioned from a white Genocentric history that we have learned from when we were kids. Eurocentric perspectives that we were taught in schools. The fact that there is a course in our school that tries to teach us about the trials and tribulations that Black people had to go through is undoubtedly valuable. It has not only helped us highlight their struggles, but also teach people how they have contributed a ton to Canada, like the war effort during World War I, despite all the discrimination they faced. They fought to protect the country we all get to live in today. In my own experience so far in this course, it has helped me learn more about the similarities in how Black and Brown people have suppressed and treated unfairly by Euro conquerors, while also highlighting the different kinds of struggles Black and Brown people have had.
We also are learning about other BIPOC groups in history. So, for example, we'd be like First Nations people, Sikh people, Japanese, Chinese people, and other people who were Canadian communities at the time around like 1914 onward in Canada. So, a big importance of the BIPOC perspective in history that we have been learning lately is because of the fact that often similar to how Black people have been shunned and forgotten through Canadian history, this helps us try to reconcile and learn more and be able to acknowledge the things we had, the things BIPOC communities had faced and struggles they had throughout history. So, for example, you could look at the fact that since we're very Eurocentric in Canadian history, we learned a lot about Britain, World War I and World War II, where we often learn about how they fought Germany, and especially World War II when they fought the Nazis. But we didn't learn is that England also caused a famine in Bengal because of all the resources they took to help fight in the World War II and the impacts they had on people who were Indian, Sri Lankan, Bengali at the time, and that was often forgotten, it's often glossed over. A big part of this course is it helps us acknowledge those and learn about those mistakes. And it's crucial for younger people like us who will be the future of Canada. We need to be able to look at those mistakes and be able to learn and move on from it, move away from this narrow-minded, Eurocentric view of history.
Even though we haven't gone this far into the course, the things we have learned has impacted us deeply, even though the things we have learned are so far are minimal. We have learned quite a lot in the AP Afro-Canadian history so far when it pertains to the experiences and many contributions of Black Canadians to Canada, and how it has often been overlooked in the past and in the present. We learned how they were actively on the front lines of the World War, volunteering to help protect and defend their home and their country despite the amounts of discrimination and disrespect they faced. People like William Andrew White, who was the only Black officer in the CEF, or the commanding officer, Lit Colonel Daniel U. Sutherland, who went from being a private to a commanding officer, which at the time is a big, very significant transition in post. We also learned how Black Canadians who didn't fight in the war helped the war effort, like the number two construction company who cut trees and logs and transported the timber to the mills, as well as providing water supplies, road maintenance, and operating a railroad through the forest. We also learned about the negative experiences they had to deal with, like how despite their service and essential support in the war by constructing infrastructure and aiding the frontline troops, many members of the battalion faced insurmountable amounts of discrimination when they return home, receiving little to zero recognition for their service during the war effort.
What we look forward to in this course a lot of time is want to learn more about the Black Canadian experience and their perseverance. So, for example, you could, as you mentioned earlier, people like William Edgar White, who was the only officer in the CDF, right? We want to learn how they were able to persevere and continue even though these hardships they faced, being denied from joining the war or being denied experiences in their lives throughout wanting to help the country, right? We also want to learn how people like were big civil rights figures in Canada, how they helped Canada usher in an era where at least like the Black people got some respect and some recognition for all the effort they had to go through and were able to reach a point where they can at least be considered human by the government rather than be constantly discriminated and disrespected.
We don't only learn about history in our AP history course, we learn about skill building and other things that are generally important and that we will take throughout our lives. First, starting with critical thinking. Critical thinking skills are one of the most important skills that we can learn and will develop during AP. They are one of the most important building blocks and foundational skills necessary for any walk in life, but especially in historical research. The ability to develop thoughts and inferences with information you have been given or gotten on your own and try to connect it with other ideas and thoughts is something that everyone, whether in AP or not, should be trying their best to get better at. In our class, we regularly have discussions, look through textbooks, learn through videos, articles, and other resources, and we use that information to connect with other things we have learned in the past to gain a deeper knowledge, to analyze, learn, make predictions of what we think would have happened, and then look into it. That's what all researching is really about, and that's what all critical thinking is really about.
Another major tool or thing we use in class that often helps us in terms of the writing aspect of research and the charts we make is annotated bibliographies. So the purpose of having the annotated bibliography is to give credibility to your sources and what you're writing. So for example, like I could be using a source that gives me a certain kind of information, but that source is coming, say, from like an unreliable or a source that isn't really related to the topic at hand. That's often an uncredible source that shouldn't really be used in the context of something like a chart or a research paper. It also helps because a lot of the times, especially in this current day and age, a lot of people are using AI to do the research for them, to do the work for them, and using an annotated bibliography proves to most people that, hey, I looked through the source, I did the research, I actually read, and this is how I know because I have actual knowledge about the source itself, where I'm getting it from, and what it is. It helps us differentiate between people who are actually putting the work to be good sources and do good research versus people who are just typing something to ChatGPT and then copy pasting it to your final answers.
Similarly to annotated bibliographies, references are just as important when writing. They give credence to the fact that you're actually reading and learning the material that you cite. It is also valuable to help make clear what you wrote yourself and what you've quoted, forcing students and researchers alike to not plagiarize someone else's work, but rather give it the respect it deserves. As much as we research, we need to give credit to the people who've done the work for us, as well as give credit to ourselves that we have put in the work and that the completed and probably beautiful outcome is what our hard work and someone else's.
So nextly, what we focus a lot on in class is credible sources. So as I mentioned earlier in the annotated bibliography, we often want to use that bibliography to tell us that, hey, this source is credible, and that I actually used this source and read through it. So we also have been studying what a credible source is, the types of sources in class. So for example, a big thing we use in credibility for our sources, we have a chart that we look through and use that helps us look through the important parts of the source. So who's the author of the article? Is it someone who is maybe known for maybe writing misinformed articles, or is it someone who's reliable? The publication date, is it new? Does it have all the newest information? Or is it older, less relevant to the current events going on? The publisher, so is the publisher reliable? Is it like from a misinformational source? Or is there a source that has been known to give the truth and accurate information? Content of the article, is it just like a couple of sentences? Does it really explain what goes on? Does it have any proof? Distinguishing them is very key to the very research you do, and it often is reliable and necessary for an accurate conclusion and thesis that you make in class. It makes sure that you're relying on actual facts and not just a false narrative that you might have created or or been invented by a source. Another, and often all this falls into the category of research. The research is the most important part of our class as we've learned so far. Often we also had a presentation from someone who works in the Archive Archives who taught us about differences between sources, specifically primary sources and secondary sources. So for example, a primary source is often created after, like right away after or during an historical event. It's a first-hand witness, it's generally people who were there at the time, or a photograph of something that happened at the time. So it could be like a diary, letter, photograph, interview. You could say, for example, adversary, that would be a primary source. It gives raw information that you yourself will personally interpret, not an interpretation that you get given by someone else. It gives you direct access to the event itself. A secondary source is a source created by someone who did not experience these things firsthand. So an example could be something like a textbook, history, articles, bibliographies, commentaries on a certain event and things like that. It often is already something that's been given to you, that's an interpretation or of a certain source, like a primary source. The value of knowing these things is that it offers you a way to understand what you are doing and actually take in the information and actually learn how you can find these sources. Rather than just one Google search and taking the first answer, you are going through multiple things. You're doing cross-checking between different sources, what you got. You can also get a direct and easier way to interpret things rather than having to come through maybe what I'm being told is wrong, because a primary source will often tell you immediately what the truth is accurately, and you can come to your own conclusion, or you can go to a secondary source if it's more difficult for you to find a primary source. A secondary source can offer context to what happened. So maybe you might learn about for example, as I mentioned earlier, during the World War II, how Britain was a major part of fighting the Nazis, but in a secondary source can also offer the context of what a lot of the resources they got were from a different country and stuff like that. That's the different value. They provide different values, but they ultimately help you reach the same thing, which is a good and well-written article or research paper.
In conclusion, AP history is just not about history. It's about gaining a deeper understanding of others and more minorities that have been through World War I and their difficulties and their family struggles. It's also about us because we're learning how we can research, how we can reference, how we can give credit to ourselves and others as we go through life. Because let's be honest, it's not going to be the only essay we ever write. So thank you for listening.
Next is Angeli and Alex.
From St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Academy.
With the first slides. Okay. Do you have the group that just presented their first slide?
My name is Angeli, and this is Alex, and we are from Slave Lake, Alberta. Now, you might be wondering why we have nothing on the board. Well, we'll be completely real. We told our teacher we didn't want to present, and she said short thing, but she still made us present. So we didn't find enough time to make a presentation because much like our year of AP, we've had a bumpy and interesting evening, but we still wish to share how this conference has awoken something that wouldn't be able to wake in the hometown of Slave Lake.
In small towns like Slave Lake, AP class was introduced to us as an option class, which makes students treat it like they don't have to care about it, since it's not one of the core classes needed for graduating.
The majority of students took it as an alternative or as an escape from the other CTF classes offered that we were interested in.
In our class, students don't see how they can make a change, considering the size of our school. There's a large disinterest in environmental topics in the town, and when teachers begin to talk about nature and stewardship, students zone out. When they offered this class, the selling point was the fact that we would get a university credit. Coming here has completely changed us
We want to share our awareness of issues that once we weren't aware we could do. As mentioned before, coming to this conference and getting to interact with other young teenagers who also are interested in the same topics, it showed us that we are brave enough to show, no, I'm sorry, that we're brave enough to show the passion and care, and that opened our eyes to do the same.
This course showed us the importance it has to learn new skills that will be needed through our whole lives.
This conference influences us into trying to address climate apathy that we are experiencing right now in the town of Slave Lake.
Our district, Living Waters, has never had an AP class before, and in a way, we are the guinea pigs of Northern Alberta. Coming into the class with our peers unaware of what to expect or how to prepare for ourselves.
We have went on several field trips, but this conference is what made a difference to us. Listening to other skilled students made us feel the power and see the power that us as teenagers hold on the world.
The opportunity to interact with other people and see that we have the same struggles and doubts about this program. It's something that will influence how we will address our project. This conference has helped to have the mindset that we can actually do something and made us see that we have a voice and power to make a difference, even if it's small steps. Thank you.
Oh. Woo!
Next, please welcome Selma and Hadid.
Of Queen Elizabeth High School.
My name is Selma Yusuf. And my name is Hannah Abdullahi. And today we'll be discussing a little bit about our class and our plans for the future.
So I am a second generation Ethiopian Canadian who was born in Banff, Alberta, living in Canada my whole life. My identity is a mix of me being Ethiopian, of me being Ethiopian heritage and my language, while maintaining my identity as a Canadian who does say sorry a lot.
And I am a second generation Somali, and adding on to what Hayat said, we are trying to balance both focusing on keeping our identity as Somali and Ethiopian individuals, maintaining our language and our culture, while simultaneously learning about Canadian culture and history of what happened in Canada.
Me and Selma have joined this class to expand our skill set and to step out of our comfort zone, and also knowing that this class can potentially ease the transition to high school life to university life a lot easier.
We also want to explore the connection of our Black identity and learning about the struggle and the conflicts that happened in the past and what Black individuals are doing today to kind of reconcile what happened and their future plans.
So this class is obviously about African diaspora, but my class in Edmonton has been in a sticky situation. It's not an actual class during the day. It's during our lunch period, twice a week, for 30 minutes. And because of this, a lot of the work that we do is on our own with the guidance of our amazing teacher, Ms. Rebecca Moon. And with this bit of class time that we do have, we are able to connect the stimulus papers to the African diaspora. For the future of this class at Queen Elizabeth High School, we do hope that we explore the African historical, social, and cultural experiences of these descendants around the world, but mainly focusing on these individuals in the Americas. The This class has helped me and Selma understand our identity as Black individuals and Canadians a bit more by knowing people in the past have shared similar experiences as us and who have looked like us.
We value being able to do our own research and develop our own opinions and thoughts on what we learn in class. A specific example is our TMP was about the increase of normalized racism, and specifically I was looking through a historical and psychological lens and the mental health implications of what happened. A specific example that I would like to touch on, or multiple examples, is we talked about residential segregation, wrong diagnosis of Black individuals, and the extreme mental health effects of Black individuals, and how these problems hindered them from further success.
In our community in Edmonton, Alberta, we are very diverse. And because of this diversity, we do need associations so every voice is heard and so our community is a safe space for everyone. One of the associations me and Selma are a part of is BSA, which is the Black Student Association, and the Muslim Student Association. These associations are student-led, and because it's student-led, it helps us step up as individuals and makes us the future leaders the world needs today.
Out of the 38, as of 2021, out of the 38 million people in Canada, 1.5 million of those people are Black individuals. This graph depicts the separation of the Black individuals in each province, and in Alberta, 11.5% of those people are Black. When researching about the population of Black individuals, it was increasingly hard to find sources about the population, information about them, which kind of leads us to the conclusion that the population of Black individuals is really small, and so which leads us to some issues we've been facing in our community and our school that kind of make it hard to find a sense of belonging.
When we don't have people of color or people who identify as Black individuals in positions of power, such as media, politics, and healthcare, our narratives are not told, and our narratives are not told, which leads to unchanging negative stereotypes and normalized racism.
With lack of representation comes some other issues. So first is normalized racism. For those of you, which we also talked about our CMP, for those of you who do not know what normalized racism, it could be defined as racist beliefs and racist thoughts that often go unnoticed and unquestioned. They're so deeply ingrained in our society that no one really says to do anything, or like people don't really address it as a serious issue. Some examples can be microaggressions. Microaggression, a specific example is a study was done that other individuals viewed Black people ranking low on warmth and competence, which resulted in the language being used towards Black people to be dumbed down and spoken to them as they don't really have a higher education, or they're spoken to in a way that you shouldn't be speaking to people. We also talked about macroaggressions, which is blatant racism, and another concept called interest convergence, which is change in marginalized communities doesn't happen until it benefits unaffected individuals. Which also gets us to another issue, is inadequate education and accountability, which is something we face a lot in our community. Oftentimes, with the lack of representation, we really don't have anyone to advocate for us. So when we go through specific experiences, we're often patted on the back and said it's not that deep, or like it's just comments people make, which is not okay. We would appreciate others educating themselves on different topics, and yeah.
Also, in our community, we don't have as many Black teachers as we should have, and because of this, students aren't able to share their experiences and their struggles with someone who is in the same shoes as us. Our amazing teachers in Edmonton, Alberta are trying as hard as they can to relate to us on a personal level, but knowing that they can't relate to us because they don't go through the same things as us makes it hard for us to thrive as students and to feel like we belong in society.
Which leads us to our community action plan. So we talked about the lack of Black Muslim individuals, so we want to do something for them. Our plan is to make a directory for Black Muslims, which is basically a compilation of different people from different backgrounds kind of compiled into one space. An example could be if I wanted a Black Muslim therapist to talk to, this would be a site to go on. If I want to talk to Black teachers, or if I wanted good food recommendations, or if I want to speak to poets or authors, this would be a place to find them. This place is kind of a facilitator for support and belonging. And based on the previous graphs, the population of Black individuals in some of the provinces are very low, so I can't imagine the Muslim Black population. So for those who are feeling alone, there's a space for them. And hopefully, if we get bigger, we would like to provide our own services, our events, markets, and hopefully scholarships and funding.
Although this website's main target is Black Muslims, it's not only limited to this group. Everyone is able to educate themselves with the resources available on the website and to connect and to use the services on the website.
We also emphasize interconnectedness. So if you're a non-Black or Muslim teacher and you want to learn more about the Black experience, or if you want to educate yourself, if you want to reach out to others, if you want to understand more, this would be a place for you to really kind of delve into other societies and make it known that you are a supporter and you appreciate it. Sorry. Thank you. Next, please welcome to the stage Mateo and Kyle.
All right, so today, as we all know, plastics are everywhere in the world. Studies have found them in water, food, and even human brains and every one of human's testicles.
So, what is biomagnification? Biomagnification is what happens when a biological organism ingests a type of matter, in our case plastics and microplastics, that organism then gets eaten by another organism, and that plastic just moves up the food chain in bigger and bigger amounts. For example, as you can see on this diagram here, when plankton, small fish, and shellfish ingest the microplastics inadvertently, then the larger fish then eat the plankton and the small fish and the shellfish, along with seabirds, whales, crustaceans, all of these organisms, and they eat large quantities. So the amount of plastic in these larger organisms just becomes more and more over time, which can cause serious, obviously, health effects for these organisms. So, some background about the issue. Plastics and microplastics. Plastics, unlike any natural material like leather and glass, never break down into natural substances like organic matter or sand. All they ever break down into is smaller and smaller plastics, which, of course, are known as microplastics. Another sort of subtopic that connects in really well here is bioaccumulation, which is when an animal or biological organism ingests more and more and more of this plastic and it never gets excreted. So this goes hand in hand with biomagnification, so that, because they just gain more and more and then that moves up the food chain. So on this slide, we talk about indicator species. Indicator species are organisms whose presence, absence, or abundance and health reflects specific environmental conditions. These organisms can be looked at by observers, researchers, scientists to determine where issues are in the environment. For example, salmon are known as anadromous fish, which means they spawn in rivers and live in lakes and oceans. This means to complete their reproductive cycle, they need to have clean and unbarricaded rivers. Human actions like overfishing and damming inhibit that. So while researchers are observing these salmon populations, they can see, oh, something's gone wrong. If there's a dramatic decrease, we need to look into this more. Or if there's a dam or something, they can measure how much there was before, how much there was after of this fish to measure the difference in population. Another example, lichen, is it's kind of a touchy organism. It's very touchy when it comes to specifically nitrogen pollution. So when there is nitrogen pollution in the atmosphere or in the area, the lichen are one of the first organisms to visibly show that they're struggling and suffering. So when scientists look at these organisms, they can see, oh, there's a nitrogen imbalance in the area.
So, who creates so much plastic anyway? Where does it come from, and where does it end up? This brings in something called waste colonialism. So, as most of you may or may not know, first world countries like the US, France, UK, and even Canada are the countries that produce and consume the most, specifically in plastic. And you may think, yeah, we recycle so much, right? Well, actually, what these countries do is that they sell and ship all of their plastics and trash to other countries in Southeast Asia or Turkey, for example, and they just send their trash to those countries. So when you see pictures like these of Indonesia, Thailand, or Turkey, this plastic is actually from our countries. And then, so that brings up the question, are we actually being responsible for the plastic that we're using and consuming? And then these countries that we're sending the plastic to, they don't actually have the right facilities to process these plastics, which is why most of that plastic ends up in the ocean.
So going off of the plastic in the ocean, another place that much of the world's waste goes is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. This is a large chunk of the Pacific Ocean that is covered with plastics and other debris that has been all brought together by converging tides and currents. This part of the ocean is approximately 620,000 square miles, which is about 3 times the size of France. This garbage patch has a couple benefits, but also not. So the benefits are that it creates an interesting new environment that coastal animals wouldn't normally have to live in. They wouldn't be able to exist out in the open ocean if this island of garbage didn't exist. But this home, of course, going back to bioaccumulation and biomagnification, does hold risks. Inevitably, if you live in an environment full of microplastics, you will inadvertently ingest these plastics. That bioaccumulates in your system and you will die, or if you don't get that far, then other organisms like seabirds, turtles, whales, larger fish will come along and ingest the fish, the smaller animals, and then they will bioaccumulate that other plastic. So overall, it's just a very negative way to think about. We're making this environment for these organisms to live in, and yet this environment is also cutting back on these organisms. So in this diagram, this is one chunk of the garbage patch. There is also a chunk off the coast of Japan, which is approximately the same size as this diagram. And there's also a third sort of thin connecting part that's a bit farther north that in a way connects the two and is a bit smaller.
Alright, so why should you care? Because, yeah, plastics may be horrible, but why does it actually affect you, and how can you stop them from getting into you? On the screen, you can see a few of the impacts that microplastics can have in your body. So it can be anywhere from inflammation to cancer to even miscarriages. So as you can see, microplastics are no small topic, and we need to find a solution to avoid them. But right now, we're just raising awareness so you can protect yourself from microplastics and hopefully tell other people about it. So our solutions are short-term and long-term. What if I could tell you, by doing 4 simple steps, 4 simple actions, you could erase most microplastics from your diet, and you can save yourself from all those troubles that we saw earlier. So, microplastics today. First of all, don't microwave in wood plastic. Some may know this, but when plastic is exposed to heat, it actually breaks down into microplastics that go to your food, and then you later ingest that. Whether it's a lid or a Ziploc bag that you put to warm up food, all of that will go into your system. Secondly, avoid the usage of plastic bottles. That's just creating more plastic, and come on guys, we know we can use water bottles from our own. And yeah, then we can use cutting boards that are not made of plastics. This is one of the main sources of plastic for humans, because when we cut in the cutting board, you actually cut microplastics that later go into your food and then you ingest them. And finally, reducing our seafood consumption. I love shrimp, but they actually contain a lot of plastics in them, because as we talked about earlier, plastics will normally end up in the ocean, and then because of bioaccumulation and biomagnification, they end up in food in the ocean that we later consume. So seafood is like the #1 avoiding thing you need to be careful about. So that's how you can, save yourself from microplastics on your own right now, avoiding microplastics. But we need to think about future generations as well, right? Your children, your grandchildren, etc. So what can you do for them? There's 3 simple things. The first one is buying organic or secondhand clothes. So if you can, I want you to look at the tag in your clothing right now and check what material it's made out of. Yeah, right now. Thank you. So if it has anything like polyester or spandex or even nylon, those are all synthetic fibers that contain plastics. And when we wash them with hot water, they actually release all of those microplastics, and they just get washed away and end up in the ocean anyway. So your clothing might actually affect the amount of plastic that there is in the water now. Instead, you can buy organic clothing like cotton, right? And that way you can avoid that. Or even secondhand clothing, thrifting. I love thrifting. Yeah, and then this one's pretty simple, but avoid single-use plastics, right? If they can't be recycled, that means they're just gonna, damage. I'm pretty sure we can use something else. And finally, supporting environmental sustainability policies. As you know, a citizen, as a human, we need to do our bit. We need to support change, and all together, I know this is cheesy, but together we can actually make a difference. But if you think, oh no, I'm just, one person, I can't do anything, then there's not going to be any change.
So the last thing we have here is some countries, like this beach in the Philippines, are putting up statement sculptures. This is, of course, a sculpture of a beached whale. Horrible to look at, right? That's not a nice picture, but it is also pretty cool. The artist made it out of all plastic found on this beach or in the ocean surrounding it. So this piece shows that even the smallest bits of plastic affect the largest organisms. And if we keep putting these plastics into the oceans, we're going to start seeing even more loss and permanent loss of species that we love, we see, we watch on TV, that we, like some of our favorite animals, right? Like whales. Everyone likes whales. I don't know anyone who doesn't like whales, right? And we're going to see these, their numbers are already decreasing. They're going to keep decreasing. And then eventually, they'll be gone. So anything we can do to turn this around is, I think, the best thing that anyone can do. So,
Thank you.
It's for you.
Next, we have Melody.
From the Nature Education at St. Malachy's High School.
Nigeria, my beloved home, a land of boundless potential, yet cloaked in the weight of its struggle. A nation of golden soil where the land breeds wealth, but its people, my people, stand in the shadows of neglect. I was raised by earth rich enough to birth giants, yet stripped by hands that take but never restore. The rivers that once ran clear now whisper tales of lust. Forest stains and skeletons, your root clutching and memories of what was. I learned resilience in the face of adversity, where the vibrant laughter of its people echoes. A fierce, untamed wildfire igniting hope in hearts, amidst the scars etched by despair. Nigeria pulses in my veins, its breath in my spirit, breathing life into every memory and dream. But I do not see my journey as exile. I am not the sea lost to the wind. I am the bridge between what is and what could be. Leaving was not an end, but a return in the making. And with knowledge, with vision, with hope carved into my bones. I have learned the stories of the land, not just my own, but of black hands breaking ground in foreign soil. Willow Grove, New Brunswick, where freedom seekers tilled the earth, planting root despite the walls that rose around them. They took barren land and made it home, built a legacy in fields that were never meant to nourish them. The land holds memory, it speaks. It remembers the hands that touched it with purpose, the ones who toiled, who tilled, who turned broken ground into promise. It tells the story of the ones who worked the land when the land would not work for them. Their legacy echoes in my steps, in my learning, in my fight. For the earth teaches us nature's resilience. A tree cut down does not surrender. Its roots dig deeper, waiting for the moment to rise, and so will we, and so will I. The burden of change is not for governments alone. It rests on those who dare to dream differently, who see broken soil and plant anyway, who hear silence and still sing, who walk away only to return stronger. My story is not just mine, it is a generation's call to reclaim, to rebuild, to be the hands that heal, the voices that rise, to be the roots of resurgence, to be hope beyond borders. Thank you. Next, we have Danny and Annika.
Of George Eliot Secondary School.
Hi, I'm Danica.
And I'm Annika.
And together,
We are Danica. And we're going to be talking about our passion project today called Repurpose. Too far. Okay, I'm sure we all know this feeling when it's the end of a school year and you got all this old paper piling up, but you can finally get rid of it. All of your packets, your workbooks, and those notebooks full of math notes that must be really you're not looking at again.
Or what about this feeling? When spring rolls around and you gotta do that annually spring clear out of your closet because you have to get rid of all that old, outdated clothing that you're not gonna wear anymore. So, and back to school rolls around, you need to find that perfect outfit.
Something that's new, trendy, in style, but are you ever thinking about where your clothing is coming from?
Whoa, did you know your typical school uses 2,000 sheets of paper per day? And so during a full school year of 160 days, we will use over 320,000 sheets of paper. With roughly 100,000 schools in the US, that is 32 billion sheets of paper per year.
Statistic.com says that in 2021, Canada consumed around 937,000 metric tons of printing and writing paper alone. That's not art paper, that's not paper towel, that's not other paper products like cups or plates, like that's just the stuff that we write on, guys.
So, in Canada, we now purchase 60% more clothing than we did 20 years ago. 2023 study at the University of Waterloo revealed that Canadians dispose of nearly 500 million kilograms of fabric each year, and 85% of that ends up in landfills. On a per-person basis, Canadians throw away around 81 pounds of textiles every year. That's per person. So that is an equivalent of 27 t-shirts, 16 jeans, 18 jackets, 18 dresses, and 18 sweaters each.
So this is where our idea came from and where we want to step in. We saw these issues in areas that we are passionate about and the ways that it's being created in the arts and fashion and what it's doing to our environment, and we wanted to make a difference.
So, some of our goals is to reduce paper waste, and we want to take all that old schoolwork that you're never going to use again, or that you just throw into the recycling bin, and turn it into new paper. We also want to repurpose clothes, giving them a second chance. Instead of just being tossed on to someone else, we're going to take all those outdated clothes and turn them into new fun stuff you would wear. And the last thing we want to do is what we're doing right now. We want to inform others about our experiences and what we learned.
Okay, so we have just begun the process of recreating paper, and I present to you our first prototype! Nice! Guys, it's not good. There's holes in this paper. Like, this is not good. In fact, it's a little underwhelming, but that's just the beginning, I promise. After only one session of making paper, we went from that monstrosity to not so bad, okay? There's no holes in this one. Okay, so, and we're so excited to keep making paper and to turn it into new things like plantable paper, journals, art books, and possibly even printing paper, so that we can take the printing paper that we dispose of every year and turn it into new printing paper. These are all of our inspiration photos for things that we could create.
Our second thing is we want to repurpose clothing. We reached out to many of our local thrift stores and asked them what they did with all the clothing that was sort of damaged or stuff that they just can't sell anymore. And we unfortunately learned that they just pass it on to other people to deal with, or they throw it away. So we went and we took those clothing that they were just going to throw away, and we got 10 full garbage bags of clothing to repurpose, and that is just the beginning. We are committed to giving this clothing a new breath of life and turn it into clothes that you may not wear now, but into fun clothes that are like somewhat alternative and unique.
You may look at the clothes, go back. You may look at the clothes up here and be like, these are ugly, guys. What's going on here? These are both pieces that we picked up from the thrift store, and they're actually what we're wearing right now. The little skirts. Yeah? Okay. So we saved these pieces. We took them and we created new things out of them. And all of the outfits that you see up here were made from pieces that we saved from going into the trash. Whether they were dyed, mended, cut, or relieved of their stains, we took them and we gave them a new life. And so now, something that was deemed unsellable is now redeemed and reimagined in our eyes. And these are all the amazing pieces of artwork that we could create. And every piece that we want to make with a story and with a purpose, and to show that we care about the environment. And so these are also some inspiration photos. And with the help of the people around us, like our amazing teachers, we hope to make a difference and an impact with every piece of clothing that we recreate.
So, one of the last parts of our mission is to inform others. We want to take what we have learned and what we have done so far and share it with everyone. And we are super excited to keep on going and to keep experimenting. And we hope that we can convince other people to join our journey and to also help reduce waste and overconsumption. So, here's how you can help. We are going to share 3 main ways you can help in your day-to-day life to reduce landfill wastes. So, our first step is to limit your single-use plastics. So, single-use plastics, also known as disposable plastics, are plastics that are intended to be only used one time, and they are designed to be thrown away after and only used for convenience. Since the 1950s, the world has produced more than 9 billion metric tons of plastic. Did you know that we ingest 1 credit card a week of microplastics? And that is an equivalent of 50 bags a year of microplastics. So microplastics are really bad for the environment. They do not naturally decompose, only break down into smaller pieces. They harm our wildlife by entering the food chain, and they can cause injury and death. They also require lots of energy to produce. Plastic is one of the main contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Burning these plastics also releases toxic and pollutants into the air, harming the environment. Some common examples of single-use plastics would be like plastic bags, plastic water bottles, to-go containers, and a lot of other things that you can see on the screen. Here's some helpful and cute little infographics that are just things that you can buy instead of plastics, and 9 reasons why you shouldn't contribute to single-use plastics. So, single-use plastics 101 says that Coca-Cola on its own produces 3 million metric tons of plastic packaging each year. That is an equivalent to a terrifying 200,000 bottles per minute. Wow. Alright, the second thing, the thing that I'm going to talk about that you can do is repurpose and donate your clothing. It's really easy, guys. Now, obviously we can't talk about the ethicality of your clothing without talking about the fast fashion dilemma of today. Okay? I'm sure we've all heard this fast fashion, but it refers to the really cheaply produced and priced garments that are typically copying the latest trends and that just get cycled through stores really quickly. Because they are created with this cheap mindset of selling and creating them, they're obviously going to be bad quality, and all of them contain microplastics in the fabrics that they use. So that continues to feed into the endless cycle of buying what's trendy, and then once it rips, you throw it away, possibly, and then get something new that's also bad quality and just to keep up with the trends. So
these brands are kind of obvious for the well-known brands of Shein, Zara, Forever 21, Temu, and H&M. Like, you may know that those are all part of the fast fashion industry, but some of them could be your favorite brands and you might not even know that they contribute to the dumping of 85% of textiles each year. So those brands are like Urban Outfitters, Guess, Anthropologie, American Eagle, and Brandy Melville, like the most popular brands you can think of. And this stat says that 35% of all microplastics are found in the ocean. They come from laundry and synthetic textiles. Now, upcycling helps the planet by reducing the waste and conserving natural resources and minimizes the pollution and the need for new textiles and new things. So by using old materials, we're reducing the need for new ones. Donating is very similar and helps the environment by saving those resources and using less new materials and more used materials. And so by taking things like these fabrics from these skirts, we're reusing them and recreating them to give them a new life and a new purpose, supporting charities and supporting good people in need and all these things.
So, last but not least, maybe one of the most important, you can learn proper recycling habits. So, how to recycle? You can follow the 4 R's: refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. I know we've all heard of reduce, reuse, recycle, but maybe not refuse. So refuse is simply, before purchasing something, ask yourself if you truly need it, or maybe there might be a better option and something that has less plastic in it. Like if you're thirsty and you want to buy a plastic water bottle, maybe next time just bring a reusable water bottle from home. Reduce is choosing products with least amount of packaging and stuff that will last a long time. Reuse is finding new ways for items to be reused rather than their original intent. So also repurposing. And then recycle, only when it is time that items cannot be reused, then you recycle them. So some general guidelines of recycling is you have to keep it loose. Do not put all of your recycle bags into one big plastic bag. Rinse containers, making sure there's no food left in them because it'll spoil the entire recycling and it'll all be thrown out. Screw your caps back on and check your local requirements because it differs per area. So what can go in the bin? Well, plastic bottles and containers, food and beverage cans, paper, flattened cardboard, cardboard pizza boxes, and delivery containers, glass bottles and containers. But as I said, you have to make sure all of your recycling is clean and washed, or else it is just going to be thrown out and it's a waste of time. So some things that can't go in your bin are, as I said, bag recycling bin, recyclables like plastic bags, plastic film wraps, flexible packaging because it's usually mixed materials. Same with like cups with plastic wax or plastic coatings, polyester foams, styrofoams. Tangling items because it can get caught in the machinery and potentially injure workers. Dirty diapers because it'll make all of your recycling go bad. Household items like kiddie pools, clothing, fabrics cannot go in recycling. Medical waste because it's a biohazard, and garbage and garage waste, oh my gosh, because it can pose a threat if you're putting in big sheets of metal or like high pressure cylinders.
So, in conclusion, those are 3 of the easiest ways you guys can make a difference in your community and impact the environment in simple ways. You don't have to do anything extravagant. You don't have to get up here and do your own presentation or go out there and start your own project. You can do these things every single day, and it makes it really easy to make an impact, just one person at a time. Even though if you are really passionate about getting out there and informing people, of course, go tell the message. Please, like, we need more people on this, but you don't have to, of course. And so as long as you're doing your best to make a conscious effort to contribute to the environment every day, you're doing the best that you can.
So thank you for listening.
We have been repurposed.
Next, we have Paige and Izzy.
From Dartmouth High School.
Okay, so we weren't supposed to present today, but we were encouraged to do so. So yesterday when we were split up into groups, we were talking about different problems within our society, and we had kind of landed on the aspect of mental health and how it's kind of like a privilege impact when getting help. So we decided to start with that today. So my name is Paige, and that's Izzy.
And our topic is mental health within our community. We're going to be going over, oh my god. We're going to be going over 4 categories. So we have small actions we can contribute. We have, you can't see, but short, medium, and long-term goals. We have systemic issues and possible solutions. So mental health is one of the biggest global health issues in the world. There's about 1 in 8 people who suffer from some form of mental health. For example, depression, eating disorders, and such, which is approximately 970 million people. Now we're going to be talking about small actions we can use.
Okay, so some small actions we can take. So using the funding that we do have in a sufficient way will allow the development and expansion of the programs that we do have to go further with fighting the mental health crisis that we're experiencing. And then next, awareness events. So awareness events will just help educate and inform others on the matter, and it will encourage early intervention when it comes to mental health. And finally, addressing the mistrust and discomfort when it comes to reaching out for help in your community when it comes to trying to find support.
Okay, this is our short, medium, and long-term goals. So first we have starting conversations. So starting conversation is a way of having a better understanding and reduce the shame of addressing mental health issues. For medium term, we have advocating for mental health. So that would be like raising awareness and better resources and a change in different attitudes. While long-term, we have political resources. This is a long-term goal because it builds influence, it secures funding, which we talked about, and changing policies requires sustained effort over a long period of time. Now we're going to talk about the systemic issue.
Okay, so first, access. Lack of access is a huge issue, especially because it plays a huge role because of the funding that's given for these things. And that unfortunately leads to a lot of untreated mental health conditions. Next, funding. So there is a lack of funding when it comes to mental health, especially in the school system. And the mental health help that we do have, unfortunately, is not always affordable for others that do need it, and it will restrict the access that is much needed. And then finally, ignorance. So ignorance can lead to stigma, shame, misinformation, and that can unfortunately turn this into a taboo topic when it's not talked enough.
Next, we have our possible solutions.
So educate. So this will raise awareness, reduce the stigma, and empower others to reach out when they do need help. And with this education, it is important for us to be educated on this matter, and also the people in support positions, so therapists, guidance, and just people of that sort.
Our next solution would be providing resources. So this could be a solution because having responsible and open counselors would be efficient, especially with people dealing with mental health. Having resources there when you need it is very crucial in our community. So we propose having a wellness day about once a month with the right amount of resources. For example, different workshops and stations within the school or their community. This could be required or mandatory if necessary.
Next is addressing stigma. So this will encourage to have open up conversations, which will hopefully make the topic of mental health less shameful. This can possibly reduce discrimination and reduce this fear factor that comes with asking for help within your community.
Last but definitely not least, we have funding for advocating for proper funding. So this would be important because without financial support, really, solutions can't be effectively developed or implemented. Thank you.
Next, please welcome Jonna.
From Brampton Centennial Secondary School.
Okay, hi, my name is Jonna. I also wasn't really planning on presenting before this, but here I am now. So a bit about myself before I actually talk about this. I am Indo-Caribbean, Aero Ace, and a writer. So I chose to talk about promoting and getting better representation for marginalized communities because it not only relates to many of our UN goals, but also it's integral for our society in general so we can move forward and do better and solve more problems. Now, in terms of the UN goals this relates to, it relates to goals 5, 10, and 16, or gender equality, reduced inequalities, and peace, justice, and strong institutions, respectively. It relates to these goals because some of these marginalized communities aren't being seen or being heard in general, which is an inequality in and of itself. Not only that, but some of these communities are formed because of gender differences, whether they are male, female, trans, or non-binary. It's all a problem. Lastly, it relates to peace, justice, and strong institutions, not only because it serves as the UN's kind of social justice goal, but because it is, to have a strong institution, you need diversity and you need to be hearing more people. And it's not really just or peaceful if no one is being heard except for the people in power. Okay. This brings me to my connection to this. So as somebody in my school who is one of the few Airways people who are open about it, and also one of the few Indo-Caribbean people that I know of, there's not really a big community to go to in terms of microaggressions or hateful comments. So it's kind of why I'm passionate about this. Not only that, but because I know people who have been misgendered or dead named before, and I just hate it entirely because that shouldn't happen to anyone. So this brings me to political representation in and of itself. So this article by CBC talks about how white men make up a third of Canada's population, but majority of our members of parliament. So the dotted line shows the population in Canada of these different groups. Now, the percentages, or the bars on the screen, show how many of them are actually elected to be our members of parliament. So, roughly, for white males, it is at, what, 30%? And yet, 52 of them, 52% of our members of parliament are white males. Not only that, but you can see 30% makes up roughly white female population, and although it's a bit lower, you can average about 15% of them is our members in parliament there. Then we come to racialized men, so that is any person of color. Now, this is far below the average, and yet the dotted line of the population is exactly the amount that are elected. Now, I couldn't actually name any of these people off the top of my head, so I'm not entirely sure how accurate that is. But next is racialized woman. Same level in terms of population, but far, far lower. You could probably guess 5%. Then you come to indigenous men and women, which the dotted line is the exact same, which I would average about 1% each, which is very sad considering they were the first people on our land, so I think they should get the most say here on what goes on. Okay. Okay, so because this is all very depressing, I will go to the solutions we can have and some next steps we can do going forward. At school, we can raise awareness by getting up murals, putting up quotes, either by people from these communities or the people from these communities can be depicted in these. I don't really care, well, it would be bad if you had to harass your principal about this because they should be pretty on board with these things, but do what you can. And so at workplaces, you can create opportunities. So whether that just be listening and considering what people in these groups have to say, or just getting them opportunities to be promoted for the hard work that they do. Lastly, in our politics, we can push for better education programs. And so if, let's say, someone was interested in doing this, we can try and create a program that can fast track them to getting the support they need so we can have more diversity in our politics and hear more problems and hopefully get more solutions and move our society forward. Which brings me to the outcome or overall goal and vision I see for the future. So hopefully we will be hearing more voices and getting more ideas about the problems that we have in our society from people who have actually experienced them. Not only that, but then we'd be able to get better solutions because people have lived these problems. They would actually know some of the things that would solve them. So, thank you for your time.
So the next presenters are actually 8 and 9.
We are from Harborview High School, and we will be talking about photovoltaics, creation versus benefits. Our research question is, to what extent does silicon mining in China influence environment and worker health? As you can see, there's another person on this, as it was our TMP, but sadly he could not make it. I'm going to give you 4 key pieces of context in order to make sense of this entire presentation. The first one is silicon. But what is silicon? Silicon is an element on the periodic table, number 14, and it is 28.09 anu. That is the atomic weight, if you didn't know. And it is an element abundantly found in the world's crust. Approximately 30% of it actually makes up the world's crust. But why is it important? Well, silicon is important because metallurgical grade silicon is the initial material for the production of pure silicon for photovoltaic and electronic applications. That is from Mr. Fidel's chart. And this is where polysilicon comes in. And polysilicon is manufactured by refining the metallurgical grade silicon derived from quartz metals. Polysilicon is used in photovoltaic technologies. One example of photovoltaic technologies is solar panels. What are solar panels? As I've already stated, they're photovoltaics, but that word probably doesn't make sense to you. Photovoltaics actually means light energy. It translates directly from Latin, and it's the technology that creates energy through light. And these are important because, as Bakshi Hu states, other energy sources will become much more important in the future because fossil fuels could run out by the early 22nd century. This means we need to find many ways to create renewable where Xinjiang comes in, as this is where most of the production of silicon and the production of solar panels is done. It's actually in the northwest of China, approximately the top cloud there, and it houses the Uyghur people as well, who are a Turkic Muslim minority who have been forced to mine and produce the silicon and its solar panels. That being said, our argument is that the positive effects of solar panels outweigh the negative effects of silicon mining.
So the first issue with polysilicon production, as Aiden mentioned, is the ongoing usage of forced labor in the industry, as 40 to 45% of global polysilicon production occurs in Xinjiang, China. And as Beverly Nielsen stated, there is clear evidence of forced migration, meaning that the indigenous Uyghur population are forced to leave their homes to go work in these mines. And there's a near 100% evidence of forced labor of the indigenous Uyghur population. Not only is this an astronomical ethical issue, but it also poses a threat to the solar industry, as many countries have policy in place to avoid buying into products made using forced labor, such as the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act in the United States. And the issue with that is it causes many solar panels to be held up at the border to check if they were made using forced labor, which can delay the implementation of those solar panels, even if it's found they weren't made using forced labor. And then second are the negative environmental impacts of silicon mining. So obviously mining is not good for the environment, as Ashutosh Mishra has stated. Mining activity exerts a long-lasting impact on landscape, ecosystem, and social, cultural, economic considerations. But it's not only the mining of the silicon, but also the production of the polysilicon, as polysilicon plants don't always store their product as carefully as they should, and as a result, on occasion, it will run into nearby rivers and then bond with the nutrients in those waters and the nutrients in the soil along the riverbank, which negatively impacts plants in the surrounding areas. However, there are many positive impacts of solar panels, as solar energy technologies and power plants do not produce air pollution or greenhouse gases while operating. And in the factories that make solar panels, there is CO2 released for their creation. However, they are capable to offset that process typically taking about 4 years. And with solar panels having an average lifespan of 25 to 30 years, those carbon emissions are more than accounted for, and there's many years where they're at a net positive to the environment. And then also, as Aiden mentioned, in the future, solar panels are only going to become more necessary because fossil fuels could run out. So this only furthers our claim that we need to work to improve solar panels now so they can be something for us to rely on in the future. This brings us to our two possible solutions to this problem, one being organic solar cells and one being the recycling of solar panels. So organic solar cells are a different type of solar cells that have attracted enormous attention due to their easy fabrication strategies, large area production, flexibility, lightweight, and highly abundant raw materials. As organic solar cells are made with carbon, which is highly abundant, so there's lots of access to it, and due to their lightweight and flexibility, they're actually easier to implement than regular solar cells, and the industry is only expected to grow, going from a $50 million industry to a $100 million industry by the end of 2027.
However, all good things have bad things as well. The biggest one being it's a very inefficient type of solar cell, as it is actually a third of the efficiency of the normal silicon solar cells, making it not viable currently. However, it is improving at a much faster rate, approximately 3 times the rate of its silicon counterpart, which means it could be a very viable option in the future. However, currently it's not really an option.
That brings us to our second solution, which is recycling solar panels, as the possibility of recycling solar panels could greatly benefit the environment, as it allows you to get more use out of an otherwise unusable product. And not only is it good for the environment, but it could save companies a lot of money, as they don't need to spend new money on mining exhibitions.
However, there are always limitations, and the biggest one being that silicon can only be recycled up to 4 times before it loses its photovoltaic properties, making it just a useless hunk of metal. However, aluminum can be recycled many times, but most of the time it is mixed with the silicon, making it useless to any other recycling applications, and it's just another useless hunk of metal. Now, This is a option for a economically stable country if they're willing to just recycle 4 times to save a little bit of money. But for a small economy such as China, it's not really viable. And that is the conclusion to our presentation. Here are our work centers.
And last but not least, Hivak and Munir.
From Queen Elizabeth High School.
Hi everybody, my name is Munira.
Hi everybody, my name is Hivak.
And we're both Queen Elizabeth High School, like they said. And version, we actually updated this.
We updated it, but my name is Hivak, and some facts about me is I'm in grade 12, I go to Queen Elizabeth High School, and my ethnic background is Samoan.
And my name is Munira. I'm turning 18 soon, actually. And I'm also Somali.
Yeah.
And actually, before we continue further, we actually want to thank Ms. Moon for bringing us out here.
Yeah, thank you, we appreciate it.
And thank all of you guys for your
So this is the evolution of spoken word. This is what our presentation is about. Basically, we're going to be going in depth about the history about spoken word, where it's from, the origin, and where it's transmitted, basically. So this is the first slide, the importance of poetry. Oral tradition, narrative, monologue, storytelling, performance, poetry, digital storytelling is all different ways that it's transmitted. And spoken word is just an umbrella, but all of these kind of fall under it. And basically, this slide we'll be going into detail about the oral tradition part.
So oral traditions actually go way back to the ancient times, and storytelling, poetry, and performance were important ways of orally transmitting information and storytelling and whatnot. Because I should skip to this slide, but because way before the invention of written language, this was ways that people told their own stories or other people's stories. It's also traced back to Greek public speakers and ancient African poets who used poetry as means of escape and identity as well. It's found to be deeply ingrained in many different indigenous societies worldwide and all over.
So adding on to what she said, emphasizing a little bit on the oral part, it was really convenient for people to use the oral language to communicate, and they use that to basically tell their story and just talk about the past and what they've been through. That's basically. So our plan is to get spoken word more out there, is to implement it more in schools and communities, run events and bring people that have do it now and speak publicly to come and tell their stories and perform their own spoken poetry, their own spoken word, and basically influence the youth to do the same. And honestly, make it so that spoken word is make it so that spoken word is not just something that you do based off of just experience, but rather something that everybody can learn, any age, it doesn't matter.
And to be honest, have you guys ever thought about writing poems? No, unless you see people perform it more, you start to get inspired. So that's why we want to offer clubs and such, and even this program, our teacher, Ms. Moon, actually brought out a few few performers and presenters that were poets as well, and also Somali. So we were actually really inspired by them, and here is our poem. So we're going to be performing a poem now called Black Excellence. So this is going to be an example of just like the way that anybody can do it, because me and her, we don't write poetry. We're nervous, as you can tell. So this is just like the way that we express how we express our feelings in history, and we're going to be doing it in this presentation. The real definition of free is the day where I can just be me, where I'm not impressed with the color of my skin, black and excellent, that's a win-win. Projected, protected, the culture runs in our DNA, injected. You don't see our melanin as beautiful, but you sit under the sun to get the same results that you just make you want. They call our excellence a threat. They see our excellence as a crime. They just can't comprehend that the color of our skin is not what defines. But black is beautiful. Let's take it from past generations, it's provable. They died to see us walk and not be shot. They died to see us talk and not be forgotten. And thus, let's even consider Rosa Parks when she stood up, so no black person was ever forced to sit at but still. We're ghetto, we're thugs, we're dirty and ratchet. They're killing our brothers and they fail to combat it. We're making petitions, creating these riots. We're pushing the effect only for them to stay quiet. It's all mentally engraved in the heads of the youth. They taught them to believe that we're not systematically abused. They've pitted us together and went from colors to shades, but aren't all black people supposed to be on the same page when it comes down to making a change? And with change, they refrain from taking accountability, because any young black man that tried can be a father and still make money, and every black woman that provides can provide for her kids and not just for dummies. A room full of black excellence, not a room full of black crime, not a room full of youth targeted into associated with local crimes. How come when I see my brothers and sisters, I see them in white tarps? Not the jacket for the doctors and not the jacket for the smart, but rather the blanket over victims who've been murdered with no remorse. It doesn't matter about the color, it doesn't matter about the race, it doesn't matter about the religion, and it doesn't matter about the faith. At the end of the day, we're human and we all want the same. Different frame, different name, bigger nose. I suppose you don't want to know that black people can be just as excellent. Thank you. Okay. I actually lost this time. We have Deandra.
From Brampton Centennial Secondary School.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Sorry for being very much late, but I am here now, so I'm very excited to share my presentation and the inspiration I've got through these 2 days. My title is The Foreseeable Future. Quick intro, my name is Deandra. I'm a student attending Brampton Centennial, and I am a part of the Pilgrimage School Board. My introduction. Having the opportunity to be a part of such an amazing course has given me and many other students the opportunities on a national scale. This is my little sister, my passion story. This is my little sister, Dakota. She has Down syndrome. I am thankful for her because she has helped me to see others for their values, many other stuff, and their personality traits. Since the year of 2017, Dakota has experienced great changes in the classroom that may not impact any ordinary student, but any child with a disability, whether it's a learning disability, a neurological disability, or a physical disability, etc., worry about the programs and budget cuts that will be taken away from her. And what will be the future for my sister? This is my first point, those who are unheard. This contributes to my first point for many students and just in general my sister along Pilcher School Board and in this in Canada. This is very important to me to highlight those who may not be able to use their voices because I'm here now and I can just speak on to what I believe in and putting my heart and what I believe in into them. All students and all humankind are entitled to an education. We live in a world where students can be reached to their own levels and have interactive education in a safe environment. My second being having a more diverse curriculum. Now that we are having conversations like these, it is important that we can highlight how we can change the school system for the better and not only for the worse. More diverse curriculum. Phase 2. My second point is how history is happening every day. Just because it's not 100 years old does not mean we do not talk about it or it's not taught in schools or necessarily valid. History happens before our very eyes, and instead of students learning about it from books that are written before they're born, highlighting and contributions of diverse individuals in science, math, and art, these are so many inspiring stories that students don't get to witness because of the lack of many inspiring stories. Diversity is the mainstream course that we need in schools today. Just this AP Diaspora course has taught me the many importance of diverse in our community and schools. So adding that to our mainstream can really help students contribute and have more empathy to what is important to me, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this room. So my approach, students working on school boards. I believe that if we are able to get our voices in meetings and just being able to just share what is inspiring to us, we can really have an impact, not just only here in Peel, but all around Canada. Having conversations and topics like these and staying open-minded. There is only one way that everyone is being open-minded and faculty. Sharing these conversations is this knowledge is a part of our curriculum and is a part of our way of thinking. In conclusion, I hope my presentation has inspired you and you are listening and observing my message. My title, Being a Foreseeable Future, is being the possibility that everyone can achieve this, something that we are able to just grab onto and see in our future. I hope that we are able to apply this to our environment and our schools and just everyone in the Pilcher School Board and Canada. I have a poem that I have written being a part of this course. It's called Belonging in Canada. The necessity everyone looks for since I can remember. It was a want, a deep desire to belong. A gift I will look under the tree for, but somehow had to look to someone else. Wanting my hair to look like my fellow classmates, and seeing the many jobs around my city, staring at those posters thinking, they don't look like me. Asking the question why, I strive for the answer. The representation was a demonstration of why I should not reach far, but maintain a small imagination. We know to call 911 when in danger, but the demeanor of those men changed the reflection in the mirror. Am I too loud for you? Let me bring it down to a whisper, but then the truth quivers. The queens and kings here before us, Martin, man, those names hold so much power. But these stories are left in the shower, so why don't I belong in your endeavors? We see the hurt in their eyes, ladies and gentlemen, don't be surprised. 400 Canadians turned away from their homes, displaced from something they once called their own. Now existed in a broken world while they sit on their thrones. Don't look away now, this is what we need to know. Although this may make you shuffle in your chair, but did anyone consider the legacy we just left in the air? The kids who look at men and women like me and automatically move 10 feet. So how long is it going to take for you to not look at my face and feel disgraced? Hate lies in the tongue, but we teach kids this when they're young. My culture is pretty to you. It is funny how we can confuse a culture and a costume. I know it they sound alike, but my identity isn't an accessory. I walk in it for 5 years, you walk in it for 5 feet. Open your ears, I cannot unzip my skin after a long day. I hope you don't feel away. The intolerance I can see on your face, the empathetic feeling of the past is now present. Remembering the power I hold in my tongue, now at last love has come along, the lonely days of striving for the answer to come. Bigotry, the confused. Why don't I belong to you? I only belong when I benefit you. When I benefit you, when I fit in your mold. So create your steps today, where you will always remember that this legacy isn't only Canadian history, but it's Black history. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for coming. We look forward to seeing where these students, myself and Sarah included, end up taking these projects.
Once again, thank you. We hope you all enjoyed these wonderful presentations. And just to finish off, can we get one more round of applause for all the amazing presenters?
Rebecca and I had the vision for this, we knew, and we set out the form, we were very maybe aspirational in our form.